Like, what? Like, I didn't think I was gonna quit my job to do lashes. I'm literally laying on the table with my vagina wide open and she like, you want to work here? What's up, you guys? Welcome back. So if this is your first time stumbling across my channel, my name is Alisha and welcome. Over here we create beauty related content. I am a full-time entrepreneur. I'm an esthetician, and so I do lash extensions, I make custom wigs, I do body waxing, facials, all of the sort. And so I like to create content around that. In today's video though, I did want to do a quick story time just to kind of explain my journey into entrepreneurship. I always get tons of questions about like how I left my job and like all those things. So yes, I worked a 9-to-5 job and I left there to become a lash artist. So if you're interested in that storyline, then definitely keep on watching. All right, y'all, so I didn't want to just sit here and talk, so I'm just gonna do my makeup for the day. I'm gonna run a few errands and film some more videos. So I'm just gonna do a quick little beat. And so I'm not gonna like explain the makeup and all of that because I just feel like that'll be too much. I really just want to dive into the story time because I'm excited to share. I've never shared like on my platform before. It's always been just on a one-on-one when people ask me. And so I went back and looked at some of my old videos and I did get like questions about how I got into it and stuff like that. So I'm sorry, y'all. This video is kind of long overdue, but I just wanted to get it out there because I also have more content to come related to entrepreneurship. And so what better way to get that stuff out there than to first lay the foundation. So here we go. All right, so first things first, one thing that I think you guys should know about me is that I've always been operating in some type of entrepreneurship fashion. So I started off when I was 12 years old. I was braiding hair. I was doing zillions back then, braids to the back, fishbone braids. I was doing guys' hair, all of that. And then that kind of morphed into doing sew-ins and stuff. So I just say that to say that's kind of like, that was like my introduction into what I do now. So fast forward to December of 2011, I started working for a huge company here in the Detroit area. I'm not gonna say the company's name. If you know, you know. So I started working there after I was just kind of tired of teaching. I went to school to be a teacher, and a lot of my education is related towards education. So like I have a master's in educational psychology, I have my associates in teaching, and then I have my bachelor's as well. So I was a substitute teacher, but then I accepted a few like full-time positions. And so there's that. So I decided to work at the company that I worked for, and my daughter was 1 year old. So during that time, loved it. I was like, you know what? I think I found my groove. I started off as a temp and then I went to be a full-time employee about 9 months later. And then shortly after that, I had applied for a position over on the training team and I got that. And I was happy. I felt like this was better for me and I felt like it was still in line with what I went to school for, because no one wants to go to school and then feel like they're not even operating in their field of study. So I felt like, okay, this is in alignment with what I went to school for, so great. So then I was still doing hair, making wigs and stuff on the side. So in June of 2018, I decided to get my certification in lash extensions. And I've gotten questions about like what made me go into lash extensions. Honestly, there was nothing specific. It wasn't even about the money at first. I think what happened was I had become interested in lash extensions, like getting them. And so I got them right around the time I was like pregnant with my son. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so easy. I can wake up cute. And if you know anything about my wig making business, I started that just from the passion of making other women feel and look beautiful. So lash extensions, like the way that I felt, I was like, oh, I want to make women feel like this. Like it just was I don't know, it was just so interesting to me. And so one lash girl that I was going to for like a long time, I kind of went to a few people before her, but once I got to her, you know how it is, like if you go get your lashes done or your hair done or whatever, like y'all know how those conversations can be. And so I was just explaining to her that it was something I was like kind of interested in, and she was like, you should do it. And she was kind of telling me I should do it like to replace my main job. And I'm like, heck, like I was never interested in being a full-time entrepreneur, like never, because once I worked my way up, by the time 2018 came, I was already a team leader at my job. I was making great money, great insurance, all of that. And I actually enjoyed working there, at first. And so I was like, nah, I'm gonna stay here, but I just want to do, something extra on the side. So I went, got my lash certification, and that was cool. Started doing lashes, and I'm gonna do more videos about like just kind of like the come up, like how many lash extensions or how many lash sets I think you should do before you start charging, all of those things. So definitely leave those questions down below if you have them, so that I can kind of organize them and add them to the questions that I already have. But basically I was like, okay, I'm doing this on the side and it was great. And so, hold on y'all. So then once I got like really good at lash extensions, that's when I started kind of playing with the idea like, okay, maybe I could do this full time. Like, I don't know. It was just like a thought that would come every now and then. Not to mention, I had so many people asking me like, why don't you do this full time? Why don't you quit your job and just be an entrepreneur? And my answer was always no. Like, I just felt like I didn't want that to be a job. I didn't want my passion to turn into like a burnout or like a job. Like I still wanted to feel like, oh, this was my side hustle and this is kind of what I do to escape because it's very therapeutic for me. So that was always my take. But then I'm like, you know what? I don't know. Let me see. So I just started doing things behind the scenes. And that'll be another video too, like what you need to do before you really step into full-time entrepreneurship. And it's really just based off experience. But I built my website. I paid a lot of money to get like my website up. I had a photo shoot. Like I had my my booking site, I just had everything. I was just working behind the scenes trying to get everything like ready just in case that was something I wanted to explore. Plus I wanted to like save some more too. So hold on. So yeah, that goal just stayed like in the back of my mind. I hadn't created like a timeline for when I was gonna quit or anything like that. Like I said, I was just toying with the idea. So then y'all, 2019 is when it all just clicked, changed. Like my life did a complete 180 that year. So it started off in April of 2019. I filed for divorce. I was married at the time, y'all. So while I was working there and after I had started doing lashes and stuff, like I would literally work 9 to 5, 9 to 6. I would get my kids and then I would come home, prepare dinner, and then I would like service clients in the evening or whatever. And so that was like, okay, things are great, but like what's next? And so that's when I was like, okay, I'm toying with the idea like if I can make this amount of money just on the side, taking a few clients on the weekends or at night, like what do I think I can probably do like if I really let this job go? But it was the insurance. Not to mention I genuinely liked my job at the time. Like I was moving up, I was just feeling good, and so I just felt like I was in my element and I could do all things. But things at home just kind of to take a downward spiral. And so yeah, in April of 2019 I filed for divorce. So in doing that, I knew that I would give up some of my time with my son. We were kind of working out the logistics behind the scenes for that. And I'm like, I just didn't like the fact that I was working all day and then coming home. And then now it's harder because, even though I felt like I didn't get a whole lot of help, it was like just somebody being there, at the time, like for me to be able to like take clients and stuff like that. So then it was like, once I had filed for divorce, then even things at work started to get weird. Like I started to not really like my job so much. And then some of my like personal stuff just started to like spill over. And so I was like, okay, no, like I don't know about this. What I ended up doing was I was off work for like 2 weeks. So during that time I was like, okay, let me just see like what would happen if I opened up my books. And so that's what I did. I was like taking clients and just kind of like trying to see how busy I can get and how much money I can make or whatever. So that was like my trial period. But also during that time, y'all, I decided one day I was like, I'm about to this is where it really gets crazy. I'm so sorry. But I was like, okay, I'm about to just do a self-care day or whatever. And so I had booked an appointment at a local spa, had got me like a little Brazilian. So I went and got my Brazilian, and just so happened the owner was the one that had did my Brazilian or whatever. And so me and her was talking, how you be at your appointments or whatever. We talking as she doing my Brazilian, and she asked me like, oh, what do you do? Just regular small talk or whatever. So I actually kind of told her like what I was doing. I'm like, I actually think I'm in transition, right now. Like it wasn't fully thought out yet, but I'm like, I'm just seeing where things go. And so she's like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I do lash extensions. And so I was thinking about it. So at that time, it even sounded silly for me to be like, I want to just quit my job and do lashes full time. Like I couldn't put that together in my mind. So anyway, when I told her, she was like, you want to work here? And I was like, what? She was like, girl, she was like, this has to be God. She was like, I do the lashes here and I hate doing lashes. She just expressed that she just did not like doing lashes. She said she never like advertised for it though. She just prayed and asked God to send her somebody that likes to do lashes. Like what? So still, I'm like, okay, what is happening? So I'm like, okay, let me think about it. I told her, like, I hadn't fully, like, actually quit my job yet. You know, this was just a thing. She's like, okay. So we set up some time to just go over, like, the logistics of it or whatever, because I had never worked for nobody in, like, a spa atmosphere. And so I'm like, okay, let me just see, you know, what she talking about or whatever. And so she was like, just told me, you know, about the commission setup and things like that or whatever. And so I'm like, okay. And so I ultimately went ahead and worked. I'm like, at first we had to keep it on the hush hush. And then once I resigned from my job, then, you know, I was able to kind of go public and be listed on her site and stuff like that. So after she offered me the job, like I said, I thought about it for a little bit, and not long, because I kind of just jumped on the opportunity. And like the one person that kind of knew about what was going on, he was like, yeah, I think you should, you know, do it or whatever, even if it's just for a short period of time. So I'm like, okay. So y'all, the week that so remember I told y'all I was filing for divorce. I filed for divorce in April. And so it took, you know, some months to kind of get everything solidified and all of that or whatever. But our final date was the first week in September. So y'all, in September, I started working at the spa. My divorce was final. And then I also went ahead and just resigned from my job. I'm like, well, we doing this. And so my life, like in the first week of September, changed like drastically, and it was very scary. But I will say, just the way that things kind of played out, I knew it was God. I'm like, man, I think this is God. And even one of my friends that was working there with me at the time, she was like, man, this is your push out, because like I said, things just started to get real weird at work, and I just wasn't feeling it. So that just really inspired me to just go ahead and step out like on faith, because at this point I'm like, well, God got me, because he done brought me this far and all these crazy things had been happening, you know. So this was it. This is what was supposed to happen. So probably like a week or so after, like once things kind of settled down, I'm like, okay, I'm done with this marriage. I'm done with my job. I'm here, I'm working at this spa, but I'm only doing lash extensions. So now I'm like, okay, what more can I do? So I was just doing classics at the time. So I was like, okay, let me go ahead and see what I could do to like add more services or whatever. So my first thing was, let me go ahead and take a volume course. So also in September, I signed up for this volume class, and it's so crazy because I wanted to do a private class, but it was just so expensive, and I was like, no, I can't do that right now. So do you know, I showed up to that class, and I signed up for a group class. Nobody else showed up. It was just me. So it was me and the instructor, and that was just so profound. My classic session, or my classic class that I took to learn lash extensions, was not the greatest. Like I felt like I ended up having to like teach myself. So I didn't mind spending more money for volume. And when I tell y'all, that class gave me everything I needed business wise, as well as the technique, so that I can like add that to my services. So I added that to my services. I was able to just real quickly just pick things up. And that's just one thing you got to know about me. Like even jumping into lash extensions, it's like, it's a goal that I wanted, and I just did it. Like I just went for it, because when I have my mind set to do something, like I'm gonna do it. So then y'all, I was doing volume lashes. And one thing also about the spa experience, like I said, it was great. But one thing that I didn't do was I didn't bring my personal clients that I already had to the spa just yet, because for me, it just didn't make sense. When I started working there, we were doing commission. I can't remember if it was 50-50 or if I was getting 60 and she was getting 40. I think it was 60-40. But anyway, it didn't make sense for me to even give her 40% of money that I was already making. So I was working at the spa, and I was also working at home. And so, like I said, things were great. I was able to manage it all. I didn't have this guy, this ex-husband, bothering me, or just bringing down the mood. And so my house had really become like my sanctuary and stuff like that once my divorce was final. So I was feeling good. Like I felt great. Like still to this day, like felt great. So I had been working there for a few months, and things were going really good. And then I, in true Alisha fashion, was like, okay, what's next? Like I still wasn't comfortable with being like content with just working there and, taking my little few clients and stuff at home. So I'm like, you know what, being in that atmosphere, and I know why I needed to be there, because I got the inspiration to become an esthetician. Prior to that, even when my lash tech was first telling me like, you should do lashes, it's great money. But she also was saying like, you need to get your license, like be an esthetician. And I'm like, that was just out of reach for me. Like I said, I already been to school. I already had my associates, my bachelor's, and my master's. And so I'm like, how am I about to pay for this? Financial aid just wasn't in the cards, because I had tapped out of all of that. So I had talked to the owner about doing some type of like apprenticeship too. And I just quickly decided like that wasn't the route for me, because I knew it would probably take too long. But then I also just felt like, you know, she didn't really have the time, and I really just wasn't trying to go that route. Like, I just wanted to get it over and done with. So I decided to look into esthetician programs at different beauty schools and stuff like that. And so I decided on Douglas J. Aveda in Royal Oak. And so the class was actually full. It was so crazy. The class was actually full. And so she put me on the waiting list, and I'm like, oh, I'm probably not gonna get in. But I wanted to do it ASAP because I wanted to do it while my children were in school or in like daycare, so that I can be gone when they were gone, and then I would be able to be with them in the afternoon. And so she ended up calling me back and let me know that there was one spot open if I wanted it. So I said, okay. And then the guy at the time that I was in a relationship with, we had gotten pretty serious. And so by this time, he was like, go for it. And he was like, I'll pay the bills and you can like pay for school, whatever. So I thought that was just a blessing. You know, I still appreciate him to this day. And so I went ahead and went to school. And so I started in February of 2020. Now, if you remember what happened in March, you already know that that was a disaster. So I started in February, like mid-February, like February 9th or something like that. And child, COVID happened in March and they sent us home. So that was, I mean, it was kind of a blessing in disguise, because even with all of that, it gave me a second to like slow down and figure out like what I wanted to do. But then it also gave me a boost in income because, as you guys know, like spas and hair salons were closed. I make wigs. So wigs blew up because women were like, I still got to go to work. My clientele is filled with like essential workers. And so they still had to go to work. So they like, I need a wig. Or I had clients trying wigs, you know, for the first time. So that was able to help me sustain, you know, some money coming in while I'm paying for school and stuff like that. But then after a while, I just started to, you know, take my clients again that was already like coming to my house, because again, they nurses and stuff. They're like, I got to go to work. And so I figured out, you know, my protocols and things like that to keep everything nice and clean and safe for everybody involved. And so I began to still work. And so that was kind of a blessing in disguise too, because I just had become unhappy at the spa. One thing about being an entrepreneur, and a solo one at that, and then going to work for or with someone else, it was just not for me. And even in January, we had also moved into a booth rent system. So I went from doing commission to paying her booth rent, which I didn't mind because it was one flat rate. So then I was able to just bring my clients into the spa. But then it just got crazy because school. So I was really only able to work Sundays and Mondays because the spas, you know, spas aren't normally open on Mondays. So bless her heart, the spa owner was allowing me to kind of be in the spa by myself and take my clients on Mondays, even though the spa was closed. So that was like really great, and I was super happy. And so yeah, that was working for a minute until it just wasn't. So when the spas were closed, I'm like, okay, the whole time, you know, spas were closed. At first it was supposed to be just a 2-week thing, but then, you know, the governor just kept pushing it back. So then I'm like, okay, I just might not go back. So I was just kind of thinking about that the whole time. And so finally, when spas were able to open again, I just told her, like, I'm not going to come back. I need to finish school, because by this time we were supposed to be graduating in April, but with COVID, we had to stop, and then we had to figure out online. Well, the school had to figure out, you know, how we could get online hours, but then we also had to come in to complete the rest of our hours, because through the state of Michigan, there's only a certain amount of online and virtual hours you can do. So we had to get back to it at some point. And so since I knew we were going to be going back into the spa, and with me working at home, I was just like, it's just, I can't work at the spa as well and go to school and work at home and stuff like that and take care of my household, my kids, all of that. So I just decided, you know, to not go back. So then finally finished school in August and was able to really just move forth into being a licensed esthetician and offer those services. So I didn't get licensed right away because with COVID, everything was just like delayed. But I finally finished in like November. And so I had started, you know, figuring out like what services I wanted to offer. Ultimately, I went to school just so that I can operate on my own and have my license. It really wasn't about too much about offering like other services. You know, it was inspired by that a little bit, just because when I was working in the spa scene, I just really loved seeing those women come in and just get refreshed. You know, after a long day at work, they come in to get a facial, or they get a body waxing or a body treatment or lashes or brows or like whatever. And so I knew that I wanted to be that for people. I wanted them to come to me, and I wanted to be able to offer more services to essentially be like a one-stop shop, you know. And so that's what a lot of clients tell me to this day, like, now you my one-stop shop. I can get my hair done, you know, I can get my wig, whatever. I can get a facial, I can get my lashes, brows, like whatever. And so I'm like, okay, I've like, this is it. This is what it was all for. And I had to go through that entire journey because it didn't even make sense to me until it was finally over. I mean, I started to reevaluate everything. Like, why did I go to school and get my master's and, you know, in education and even go to school to be a teacher and all that if I was just going to be doing lashes full time? Like, for me, it just didn't make sense. But some of the goals and things that I've been doing, like now I'm offering lash classes and I want to eventually do more. So definitely stay tuned, you know, for all of the things that's coming. But it just came around full circle, and I felt like this was just God pushing me in the direction that I needed to go. And my journey, I won't say that it was easy, but the little nudges and pushes that God gave me, it just showed me that I was walking in my purpose. And a lot of people don't walk into a spa job, you know, just from going and getting a Brazilian. I mean, I'm literally laying on the table with my vagina wide open and she like, you want to work here? Like, that doesn't happen every day. And I'm very grateful for that. And I know that that doesn't happen every day. Some people have to work a little bit harder to kind of get there. But I just think that my story from beginning to end is very profound. And it's more of a testimony because even when I started doing lashes, I did not think that I would be doing it full time. Like, what? Like, what? Like, I didn't think I was gonna quit my job to do lashes. It wasn't making sense. Like, it didn't make sense in my mind. But here I am today. I'm like, wow, I did it. And just the freedom that I have and, you know, the income. And one of the things that really kept me at that job for the longest anyway was the income, but that was actually secondary to the insurance. If you don't know anything about me or my story, I also have a daughter who has a special need. She has muscular dystrophy. She is wheelchair bound, and I love my baby to death. And so I'm going to figure out, you know, what I need to do to help her. But it also requires a lot of doctor's appointments. It requires tons of surgeries that she's already had. And it just requires me to be a lot more flexible than, you know, having a job that I have to be at from 9 to 6. So, you know, it was very important to me to stay there for the insurance, but I think it began to be more important for me to find insurance and really understand what that world looked like, because I think it's just a very scary phenomenon, like insurance on my own. Like, the job provides it and it's already, you know, high enough, but it's great insurance, and just really not understanding that, you know, there's resources and there's things out there, and so it's not impossible. So I was able to figure out the insurance piece, and once I did that, y'all, I was really like, okay, yep, I'm out. Deuces. So now that I've had my license for almost 2 years now, I've been slowly just incorporating new services and being able to just kind of practice behind the scenes and really just perfect my craft and my business. My business is my baby, and I feel like I worked hard to get to this point because a lot of people just can't leave their jobs and be able to thrive on their own. I got real big girl bills. Like, I have a mortgage and I have a car note and I have, you know, all these other bills that, you know, I can't just ignore. And so it was important for me to realize that I can do this, but I can thrive. I don't have to go back and work for anybody else ever again if I don't want to, because I have the tools to be able to thrive in this type of situation. So yeah, my makeup is done. If you have any questions about the products or anything that I use, definitely leave that down below. But most importantly, if you have any questions about my journey or what I really did, like behind the scenes and stuff, like I mentioned earlier, to be able to be in this position, then leave them down below, because I do want to create more videos centered around helping other entrepreneurs, even if it's just giving them inspiration, but just helping other people who may be looking to quit their jobs or who have done it and they're like, okay, what do I do now? Or even if you're just toying with the idea and you don't really know how that can come into fruition for you, I'm here to let you know that it can come for you. And I hate the fact that society doesn't teach people how to be entrepreneurs. That's not something that you really learn in school, but it's just so empowering to be your own boss. And so I've been heavy in planning mode to be able to give you guys more content centered around this sort of thing. So like I mentioned earlier, if you do have any questions or if there's topics that you want me to talk about, even if it's just me sharing my journey, definitely leave those things down below. I will be more than happy to create that for you. And yeah, this is the final look. Like I said, I'm just gonna be running errands and creating some more videos, but this is it. You know, my hair's so big it's not even like in the camera anymore. But yeah, you guys, if you like this video, definitely give me a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe before you leave if this is your thing. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.